"This is Blackjack," she said pleasantly enough, but there was an undertone that said that I was in so much trouble right now. "She's my dear friend," she said, and I suddenly realized that dear could mean idiotic from how she said the word. "I see," he replied evenly and muttered, "I'm never getting grand foals at this rate." Then his eyes hardened on me. "Miss Blackjack, I've been guarding and protecting Thunderhead my entire life. Thunderhead needs the VC. We're just realizing how badly we need metal and materials from the surface, and we're becoming an example of just how much the surface offers us. In time, the Enclave military and other cities will come around to our way of thinking. The military won't risk damaging Skybolt Tower. They need it." "But," I began weakly. "I won't hear any more of this," he said with finality. "All this talk of war and Pegasus turning against Pegasus simply undermines me. We are all Enclave. We are all in this together." Suddenly, I had an overwhelming appreciation for just what Lighthooves was dealing with. It was like Marimar all over again. How do you convince some pony who's completely made up their mind before their cutie marks are burned off? "Right," was all I could mutter. "Very good." His gaze pinned me in place as he stared at me. "Now, Miss Blackjack, you care deeply for my daughter." I swallowed and nodded. "More than anything." I nodded faster. "I'd give my life for her in a heartbeat," I replied. "And have you screwed it up?" I winced, looking at Glory with a worried frown. He gave a deep breath. "I see. Well, if she's forgiven you, then I suppose there must be some merit to you. I did the same for her mother. But if the next time I see my daughter she's without her other wing, I swear you will be the one answering for it. Is that understood?" "Yes, sir," I said with a gulp. "Maybe put her in the HMS Celestia on the moon. That'll keep her safe. Right?" "Very good," he said before turning his eyes back to Glory. "Now, Morning Glory, have you found what you're looking for?" Glory glanced at me nervously, then at the screen, and then dropped her eyes. "No, Father. Not yet," she replied before looking back at him. "But I'm still looking." He just sighed and nodded. "Too bad. And the twins?" "They miss you badly. Lucen's got a terrible fight at school over the recording. Lambent is more than quietly upset. She pours herself into her studies. I hope you'll get to see them again soon." "Me too, Father," she replied with a small smile. "Maybe someday in the future you can bring them down to the surface." "It's hard to get over the dirt," he replied with a small roll of his eyes. Finally, he sighed. "It was good talking with you again, Morning." "And you, Father." "Sunshine and rainbows, Morning Glory." "And clear skies ahead, Father." Wait, wasn't she going to tell him about Lighthooves? Or what he did to her? Or the contagion he was working on? Or anything? My jaw dropped as she reached over and turned off the terminal, looking at Lighthooves. "So?" He looked at her for a moment as he rubbed his nose with a wing, then nodded to Northstar. This was it. His sudden but inevitable villainous display of betrayal. The Midnight Blue Mare trotted to the terminal and began typing the keys before she looked at me. "Well, do you want the files from Flash Industries or not?" I felt concussed. "You're giving them to me?" But she didn't convince him to stop like you wanted." "She's not a smart pony, is she?" Lighthooves murmured. "Father would never just change his mind like that. It took 10 years for us to finally get him to stop singing in the shower," Glory said softly. "All I agreed to do was talk with him. Hopefully it'll make Father think about what he's doing and why he's doing it. He can't get reckless sometimes," Glory explained as Northstar hooked my pip-buck to the terminal. But half the conversation was a fight, and the other half you didn't say anything." I gawked and looked at her. Northstar began typing, and a little message asked me if I wanted to do something with Steel Pony. I hit accept as I looked at the pair. I mean, the dealer coughed in my mind. I had no time for him right now. I mentally mashed accept over and over again. Glory sighed softly as my pip-buck did something. There was all these blurred letters and numbers streaming in the corner of my vision. Blackjack, I don't think you realize it, but I fight with every pony in my family. Father, Dusk, Moonshadow, even the twins. Glory. Nice, sweet, wonderful Glory. Okay, yeah, I guess I could see it. But you didn't say anything about the contagion or talismans or the like. I protested with a frown. Of course not. Do you want to give Lighthooves a reason to kill both us and Father? Glory responded. I would prefer to avoid it. The Crimson Buck said offhandedly. The two sounded like they were bantering about our deaths. They were bantering! But we... I collapsed to my haunches with a clatter. What the hell's wrong with all you Pegasi? This cloak and dagger stuff, it isn't healthy. All this intrigue was starting to make my head hurt. The flash in numbers didn't help that either. What the hey was my pip-buck doing? Suddenly, as abruptly as it began, it ended. About time, too. I checked my pip-buck memory and... oh, look! Another quarter of nigh infinite memory. Power taken up with steelpony.acv. Good. Something for smarter ponies than I. I reached over to the terminal and pulled out the cables, then blinked as my hoof passed right through it. Bah? I gasped as I waved my hoof back and forth through the computer. What? How? I stammered as the computer swirled and then seemed to re-solidify on the table. That's weird. You're weird. Everything that flies is weird. I pointed at the computer, my mane bristling. This is not natural. Relax, Blackjack. It's made out of clouds. Glory said as she rested her hoof on top of the terminal easily and unplugged it with her mouth. Clouds. I blinked and pointed at the screen. That's a cloud. Terminals aren't made out of clouds. Terminals are made out of whatever non-cloud thingies that they're made of. I started to trot around the room. Is this made out of a cloud? Or this? I asked as I went and kicked everything that looked remotely Pegasus-built, and I was shocked to find my hoof passing through most of it. I tried to flip away a container with my hoof, but my leg went right through it. She fights monsters. Has a building collapse around her. Smashes through an interrogation window. Tears apart soldiers in a chem-induced fury. And this is what freaks her out. I don't know if I should be impressed or disappointed, Lighthooves commented. 15 minutes later, we were out of there. I had a splitting headache from that download. I really did not want to be around Lighthooves any longer, and almost everything around me was made of clouds. Intangible gear was where I drew the line. Lighthooves seemed exceptionally pleased with himself, which didn't do me any favors. Fortunately, Glory and I were escorted out of weather monitoring number 1 by Northstar. I'd poked her black carapace armor and was relieved to find it quite solid under my hoof. Quit it, she murmured, but every other minute I'd give it a test poke, just to make sure. So, what do you want with the off-the-books target talismans? I asked the armored mare with a grin as she handed over the rest of my gear. Northstar looked amused, and Glory just smiled and shook her head. What? I asked as I floated my barding into place. Glory helped me adjust it. My gray love sighed softly. You don't just ask, Blackjack. You talk around it. Work your way towards the answer. Be subtle. This is from the most literal mare I'd ever met. Of course. You could always join us, Northstar said casually. As they say, if you can't beat 'em, I snorted. As Lighthooves would ever go for that. As if Glory would go for that. I laughed as I checked over my final firearms. Then I saw their serious looks and my laughter died off. You're serious? You're actually serious. I stammered and pointed my hoof at her flank. You burned off your cutie marks, Glory. To prevent a war, she replied softly as she shivered, dropping her gaze a moment. Then she looked back at me. Even if he's wrong, I can't fault his intent. I agree his means are wrong, but his end is to protect my home. Yeah, unless he's lying. I almost said it, but at the look on her face, the retort stuck in my throat. Maybe it was a Pegasus thing, or maybe it was a Thunderhead thing, but they didn't do or take lying well. The feigned confession hadn't worked, and they didn't lie. Exactly. I wasn't on the same page as Glory and Northstar. Clearly, they appreciated Light Hooves in a way I couldn't. He was using misdirection against an Enclave military that appeared to have superior firepower and needed to use it to justify their existence. Maybe there was something noble about that, but I couldn't respect a pony who twisted the truth to the point of almost making it unrecognizable to get Dusks to kill Glory or to try and smear her father's name. You just don't do some things. And still, Glory believes in Thunderhead and the Enclave. Maybe not as callously as Light Hooves. I couldn't see Glory comparing Earth ponies to radroaches, but she was still convinced that her ponies were, and her home were the best future of Equestria. And maybe she was right. But despite that, there was something about Light Hooves, beyond what he'd done, that bothered me. He was a schemer. Some pony trying to manipulate the world around him. And after encountering Golden Blood, well, I was suspicious of any pony who tried to get others to do their dirty work for them. I got all the same vibes from Light Hooves as I did from Golden Blood. He was a pony who would get a lot of ponies killed if he thought it was worth it. The talismans are in the Bronco Maintenance Center in Flank, Glory told Northstar. If you can't find any there, you might try at the exchange. I sold them to a bluish-white mare with a wrench cutie mark. Northstar sighed. And she'll probably send me somewhere else. Why is nothing ever easy? I chuckled. 'Cause then it just wouldn't be any fun. When she was gone, I looked at Glory. What? She asked a little nervously. Nothing, I said as I stretched forward and nuzzled her. Just, I don't like that we helped him. I know what he told us. I think it's all going to end badly. And that's all. I got what I wanted. He got what he wanted. So it was fair, right? So why was my mane going so crazy?